Welcome to our continuing series on biblical covenants. Today we're going to talk about the Davidic Covenant. Now, this covenant was made with King David through the office of the prophet Nathan. Now, this covenant is most often considered a foretelling or a prophecy about the Messiah. So where's this covenant found? Well, it's found in 2 Samuel chapter 7, verses 8 through 17, and also in Psalm 89. Now let's read what's in 2 Samuel. Now therefore, you shall tell my servant David this. Thus says the Lord of hosts, I took you from the sheep pen, from following the sheep, that you should be prince over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you went, and have cut off all your enemies from before you. I will make you a great name, like the name of the great ones who are in the earth. I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, that they may dwell in their own place and be moved no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more, as at the first, and from the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel. I will cause you to rest from all your enemies. Moreover, the Lord tells you that he will build you a house. And it will come about when your days are fulfilled, and you sleep with your fathers, that I will raise up your descendants after you, who will come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom. He will build a house for my name, and I will establish his throne forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commits iniquity, I will chasten him with a human rod, and with the stripes from human beings. But my loving kindness I will not take from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before you. And your house and your kingdom shall be made sure forever before me, and your throne shall be established forever. According to all these words, and according to all this vision, so Nathan spoke to David. So what's in this covenant? Well, this covenant tells how God is going to provide to David a house or a royal line. Now, this covenant is a promise that members of David's family will remain on the throne of Israel as kings. Now, this is important to David when we remember that the history behind the person who he replaced. Now, Saul's line ended when Saul died. But David's reign would produce a dynasty. David was also promised more. In this passage, we see an example of what some call the double reference principle. Now, this is when a passage refers to more than one thing at the same time. I'll show you how this works. See, some of these passages talks about Solomon, who would follow David to the throne, and who would build the temple and bring peace and prosperity to the kingdom. But it also is a promise of a future king, who would be a son or descendant of David, but also uniquely God's son at the same time. See, this is a prophecy and a promise about the coming Messiah. So we can see that this one passage refers to a prophecy with about two different individuals at the exact same time. Now, there is a sign with this covenant, and that sign is the person of the promised son. Now, this son has some very specific promises and characteristics. First, his reign will be forever. he will be a man with two natures. He would be David's son, which means he's a human being, but also he'd be God's son, which means he will also be divine. The son's reign will be forever, but before that happens, he must face death, be buried, and be resurrected from the dead. Now, the son will actually have two thrones, one on earth and one in heaven. He will sit on his heavenly throne before he takes over David's earthly throne. The son will be both a king and a priest, but not a Levitical priest. As we later learn in the book of Hebrews, the son will be a priest after the order of Melchizedek. Okay, this son will reign over and in Israel and over all the land that was promised to Abraham. And lastly, the son will not only rule over the nation of Israel, but he will also reign over all the nations of the world. So you can see how this is a prophecy of the Messiah. Now, this is an unconditional covenant. God said, "I will," in many different places. David did not have to do anything to receive from this covenant. Now, this covenant has no conclusion. It has no end. This covenant will last forever.